Yeah.
Okay, thanks for this conference. I think it's amazing to share a lot of things around conservation in the world, and thanks to Ingrid was the person who invited me. I am excited to share one to show you how diverse is my country and a specific one place. I'm professor for the National University of Mexico. I don't have this kind of society, but every university and institution in Mexico work with different places or natural protected areas in Mexico. Uh, uh, I will tell that if I say you what for the word forest, maybe do you imagine big trees and tropical trees, but or pine or some oak. But in this case, forests are not this kind of tree. Is only columnar cactus for a long kilometers distance and mountains and mountains and mountains of these amazing cactus which are very tall and only is not one species are a lot of different kind of species of cactus. The first time I been here was very amazing because also it's amazing how in some this kind of dry areas can live and survive a lot of plants in this case. And also here the sounds is completely different from one pinus forest or tropical forest, and also smell different, completely different than the other places. And I think that my best experience in dry forest, especially here in the Tehuacán-Cuicatlán Valley and the north of the Mexico, in Mapimi Reserve Conservations, is to see the sunset when they start to change the color in the sky. It's very and the silence. I think it's very amazing to be in these kind of places. Um, One moment. Okay. So first, I will talk about how diverse is Mexico, and after I will talk about some topics specific for the valley. For this part, I would like to share with you a video. One moment. Okay. Okay. Hi. This video was created by a institution, Mexican National Commission of Biodiversity. Is an institution to join all information of all the institution who is working around by biodiversity in Mexico. And one of the amazing work that they do is to show all this information in different kind of materials like videos or a lot of activities that they have with the communities in Mexico. I would like to stop here because I think it's a map when I can explain why Mexico is so complex. Mexico has different kind of ring mountains. For example, this here is one ring mountain. This is another ring mountain, and these two ring mountains are the older of Mexico, but also emerge in different kind of times. We have another kind and complex ring mountains in the south of the Mexico, and the younger ring mountain is in the middle of Mexico, where there are a different kind of active volcans. The lowland part of the Mexico. Here is the Caribbean, where a lot of people likes to go holidays. But all this complex of the mountains create a different kind of environment in Mexico. And if you travel along with the Mexico, you will see different kind of landscapes, different kind of landscapes where also there are different kind of traditions that I will talk later. Okay, so why does Mexico have agriculture diversity? Along with the times, the communities in Mexico have been a strong relationship with the nature, with flora and fauna, and in every place of my country there are different kind of this nature, and the relationship are completely different. All of these create different kind of indigenous communities. In Mexico, there are 68 indigenous communities along of the territory, and in consequence, we have 68 indigenous languages. And the only language communicate all of us is a Spanish language. Unfortunately, a lot of these communities we are losing because a lot of people prefer to go nowadays to the cities, and I think that nowadays we maybe could be extinct some tradition of my country. But in the last few years, the government of Mexico start to promote some activities and programs to save our communities. Nowadays, are 10 languages the most told in Mexico. But now I would talk about of this place. So, as you can see in the video, Mexico have a big territory, dry territory, and this is all the area. All the brown is dry territory. We have deserts in the north, but also we have this small area in the center of the Mexico, and this small area is Tehuacán-Cuicatlán Valley. Some literature reports that maybe this is the most biodiversity dry environment in the world. And in this map, I showed you all the kind of environments that are in this small area. Every color represents different kind of environments with different kind of vegetations that is showing in this map. Every color also represents different kind of vegetations, and I think that is amazing. It's like there is no continuous vegetation. There is like a mix. All these mix here of vegetations create these new and microhabitats specific, and also create high diversity in this place. The high diversity in this place are, I think, the most important are the plants, because here there is around 3,000 of species of plants. Principally, the plants I think there are here are the cactus, and are this kind of cactus that the name is mammillaria. Also, there are a lot of kind of plants. All of these plants represent at least 11 endemic species in Mexico. But what is endemic species? This means that you can find these plants only in this place and not in another place of on the world. Also, this place is interesting because it represents the 10% of Mexico vegetation in Mexico. So the kind of vegetations we have is all of these are these 4 principal vegetations. But I think the most amazing is that in both sides, in the east and in the west, southwest of this area, there is like kind of closely mountain. So you imagine to finish one dry forest and to start the cloudleaf mountains, and to have this combination is very amazing. So it's a reason that this place comprises a complex mosaic of vegetations. But what happened with the flora? Okay. The fauna, we also have a lot of species. I have a list here, but I think it's amazing that in this small place we have 25 amphibious species in a dry forest, 78 reptile species, and I would like to say that we are the third place, between the second and third place in the world with high diversity in reptiles. because reptiles in Mexico we have also a lot of endemic species. That means that we can find in other places. In this area, in the valley, also there are 336 birds species, and where we can find hummingbirds that I will talk about more later about it. Also, we have 131 mammals, but I think in the group of the mammals, the more interesting that we have here, there is 36 bats that are a lot of species in one place, but also the strong relationship that the bats have with these cactus columnars. So I will change and I say what are the benefits, services and research that this place have for us. So if we to have a sustainable world, we have to recognize the importance that the biodiversity are for us. So there is recognizing for different kind of groups of services that ecosystem bring us. And for example, the seed dispersal are very important because if without this, for example, we can have this kind of vegetation forest. Also, I think the food and water for us, for all people, communities in the world, are very important, and it's only possible with these cycles in the ecosystem. Medicinal resources also are important, and I will tell you later that in this area in Valley also is very important for the communities. Regulation, for example, the bats are so important, at least in my country, because they control all the population of mosquitoes. Mosquitoes that in the last years transmit chikungunya, dengue, and other kind of diseases in Mexico. And pollination is important between agriculture and wild vegetations. And for us, culture, and I was listening the presentation in the morning and say that this feeling that you feel when you go to the forest bring us this kind of spiritual and recreational service for us. And also in this place is important for the communities. And in my case, for example, bring some I can do some science and bring this information to promote education and to promote conservation and this in these communities. But how can I understand how is the relationship between communities and the nature? There is an area in biology that is ethnobotany and ethnozoology, in which bring us all the information, because these biologists people go to the communities and have a strong relationship with them and talk with them, and they share the information with all these people, scientific ethnobotany people communicate of this information in different ways. One of these is in scientific reports. Another thing is in educational and different kind of activities in different communities. For example, to understand how is producing the most traditional beverage in Mexico, like a tequila and mezcal, and also the drinks of the gods, that is the pulque, we need to understand how they obtain. They obtain of these plants, the called for the tequila agave, and for the pulque, the name is maguey. They in the past they look for these plants in the mountains. Nowadays there is some specific agriculture, and all people here in the valley, for example, manage all these plants between two different kind of management of the plants. But in this case, they in the wild they have to wait for a long time. For example, these plants produce flowers after 7 years. When the plant produce the flowers, they cut them and they obtain this that they call hair. Inside of the hair there is this kind of liquid. The liquid that with some extra bacteria and one process they could obtain the tequila, agave, or the tequila or the pulque. But also the communities and also use these leaves when they obtain the surface to produce some traditional some traditional culinary food in Mexico. And nowadays there are some projects where with this kind of leaves can produce some plates or plates sustentables. The important also in this valley is that there are a lot of indigenous communities. At least in this valley there are 4 communities: Cuicatecos, Popolacos, Mestizos, and Mazatecos. All of them have strong relationship with the nature because they know that nature bring them a lot of resources, and without them they can't survive. So in this case, they protect their own fauna and flora. But also, for example, in these communities have specific clothing that represent every community, and they recognize. It's possible to recognize. But these textiles of fibers and colors taken from some plants, and colors, for example, this vibrant color is possible for with a specific plants and with some insects that they use to give these colors to the clothes. Okay, but this strong relationship bring us the domestications. This valley is also important because it's the center of the domestication of America. For example, in Mexico is considered the center of domestication of the corn because here is one of the wild plant. The name of this plant is the teocintle, and teocintle is the ancestor of the corn, but also is the center of the squash and some plants that we used to eat in our different communities that we call quelites. And in Mesoamerica is the area from the center of Mexico to the south of the Mexico, and in this case was domesticated the cacao. Another kind of relationship that my communities has is the domestication of some animals like the turkey. Also, we have the ancestor of the turkey, and the domestication of this animal start here. And why this place is considered the center of domestication? Because of I told you that we have around 3,000 plants here, and at least 1,100 plants they use in this area. And I will talk about some examples how the communities use these plants. This is, for example, a scientific report when they talk about how the communities use this plant, that the name, traditional name is giotilla. And with giotilla, this is the plant, is a cactus, and this is the fruit, and this is the flower. In these communities, for example, the fruit are very important because they use different kind of productos like a jam and sherbet, but also some traditional beverage like a nochochtli and vinilo. But also they use the branches for fodder and the wood for field and for fence construction, like a garden that serves as a fence, like you can see. So these communities use the natural plants or plants for their gardens, but they help to maintain their houses and protect them. Another example is how they use, for example, this fruit the communities called mountain coconut, but they use the leaves to employ like infusions to treat diarrhea and also to heal of goods. And also there are some scientific reports on where said what kind of biochemical substance they have that they have this specific effect in different kind of illness. Another plant is this bursera. Bursera is also endemic like the other plants. This means that you only will find here. And this, in this case, I think the most important activity of this plant is that it's like an antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, cytotoxic activity. But important here is that the people have a strong traditional medicine, and sometimes they can't go to the doctor and they prefer to believe in these plants. And believe me, my family, for example, have this maintained some of this tradition, and believe me that all of this traditional medicine is useful. But what happened with the fauna? With the fauna, also promote a lot of resources like food, as obvious. For example, people here go to the mountains and kill some animals to food. But also use like a medicinal because they believe that if they eat food for a specific kind of animals could be fine. And I would like here, for example, also use like a weather indicator. That means, for example, this bird, they have in the gardens and yeah, they have in their houses because they have a specific behavior when they start to rain. And so the people now, when we rain, and sometimes it is important for the agriculture in these dry places. Another uses are the amulets, and the amulets represents by the hummingbird, because they believe that if they have a hummingbird, they will find the true love. So I know that this is not a good tradition, because the thing that is happening is that some population of the hummingbirds could be decreased in the future. But in this point, in the institution where I'm working, we are interested to protect hummingbird conservation, because we also know that the hummingbirds and also the bats have a strong relationship, and also some insects, with the plants and the pollination. That I will explain why it's important, the pollination of these small birds between different kind of plants. For this reason, I will start with some projects in these places and in this place. So I am very interested in the conservation, but we can conserve in different levels, because the levels of the biodiversity are principally recognizing three: ecosystem level, and population level, and the gene level. So I think every research and every institution or society protect different kind of levels. But in my case, for example, I'm very interested in the levels between communities, population, individual, and the genes. For me, the most important, and I will talk a little bit, is about the genes. So why is important the pollination? So because the plants can move, they need that somebody else help to move. And hummingbirds help to move to the plants because they eat nectar from the plants and after move the pollen to the other places. When they move this pollen, they are some gene flu. What is a gene flu? We know that inside on our cells there are variety. These variety are in the genes. And it's necessary for all the populations that this variety move along of. What is one advantage when the genes move is that, for example, a level of population can be survive, for example, one pest or one illness. But nowadays, with the climate change in these places, that people told us because they live here, or people from the communities, is that say that the flowers start to open in different times after some years ago. And this is, we are concerned because we don't know, because the flowers and the reproduction of the animals like hummingbirds are very timing. And we don't know, with the climate change, we change this timing, and if the timing change, it's not one advantage for the hummingbird, and also is not advantage for the plants, and we can lose some population of maybe to the hummingbirds and some population of the plants. For this reason, I am very interested to understand if these genes that we can know that there are, but we can see because we use like a very indirect tools. And I am interested to understand if the gene flu moved throughout the population of the hummingbirds, and also if they moved the genes of the plants. For this, I want to understand what are the relationships between plants and hummingbirds. I will show you, here I show you some of species that in this valley are not all the species. I remember there are around 16 species of the hummingbirds. But the amazing is that these two hummingbirds are migratory hummingbirds. This means that they, during the breeding season, are in Canada or United States and coming during the winter and these dry places and pass the winter in Mexico. So they have, for example, I'm completely sure that they have another kind of interaction and timing with another kind of the plants during the winter, but the rest of them, they have another timing and interaction during the spring and summer. For this, there are some analyses that help us to see what is the interaction between hummingbirds and the plants, and to understand maybe what are the principal plants, and understand if they are the principal pollinators, because also there are here one story behind of the pollination. Okay. So I will, in this slide there are some technical words, but I will explain. So now I would like to understand how is the gene flow, how the genes move in the population. But also we know that the landscape or some environment factors permit that these species or these individuals can move along of the landscape. So I am interested to evaluate with some specific analysis of maps to understand and relate with this genes information and understand if they can move and how they move it. All this information bring us some maps, connectivity maps that you can project in one map, and in this map you can promote, or in this case I can propose some biological corridors for conservation of the plants. All of these are my questions, and I explained in the two slides before. And I would like to say that we need a multidisciplinary studies at least in my country. Why? Because with information about how people use it, I can understand the interaction that they have, for example, with the hummingbirds and with the plants. But this information gives me ethnobotany and ethnozoology biologists in this case. but also the communities contribute a lot with this information. It's important to understand a specific thing of the home members and plans. For this, we need some specialists in these groups, and also we need specialists in management of maps. And in this case, that is, I think, is my principal area to understand this kind G of the genes. At the end, I would like to conclude that when I saw the title of the conference and say wilderness, I can imagine the wilderness without people, for example, because in Mexico, I have to say that we conserve throughout to the indigenous communities. And I would say that we are not nature and people. We are the people is inside of the nature. We are like a system. We are like a complete system, ecosystem. And we have to understand the all because we are part of the all. And the end, I would like to show a very, very small video about the Tehuacán Valley, and I think I finished with this. Right? Where I? Okay. Thanks. I don't know if you have some question or there is time to questions.
Okay, thank you so much for this presentation, Tanya. Actually, we just realized while you were presenting that here in our headquarters, two of us actually wanted to go to Mexico this year, but we couldn't because of COVID. So we're really looking forward to do this when the world is hopefully a bit more in place again and to see all the wonders you just described in person. Yeah, so now our audience has a chance to ask questions, and we already have the first one from Ingrid. And she is exactly going to the point that you finished with. So the connection between wilderness and civilization, and how you think that indigenous cultures in Mexico can coexist with wilderness, and what we can learn from how they live with their natural landscape around them.
If I understand, is how they can live with wilderness.
Yeah, how these communities live without influencing the natural processes around them.
I think that because they live there, so they understand. For example, I know my father, for example, said the climate change, the environment, or the climate change, or the position of the sun change because they live all time and they have this kind of sensitive fields. I don't know how to describe because it's really interesting when my father told me that. And they know when they have to prepare the land for the agriculture, for example. And I think because they walk in all time in these places, they will, for example, the children's run throughout to the mountain and they don't lose, and it's amazing how they don't lose. They don't need a GPS, for example, because they know how to go in one place and how to back. For example, in the north of the Mexico, in Chihuahua, the communities, the children or the kids walking around 2 hours to arrive to the school. And this is and sometimes in some places they have to pass for a mountains for this precipitation. I don't know how to say in English, but they have to pass this and they like it and they go and they play along of these places. No, I think because they have the strong relationship with it, they know the place. I don't know answer.
Yeah, I think that was very good. That was a perfect answer. I think we can learn a lot from these communities to just reconnect with the nature around us, and learn to value it more. Yeah, your time is over now, and I think the questions are also answered for now. I'm sure people are interested in learning more about what you're doing in Mexico. Do people have a chance to contact you somewhere?
Yes. Please contact. I have my. I will share my. This is my mail. If you want, I don't know if I share. Yes, no.
Yeah,
This is
maybe
my
you
mail.
can
Yeah.
just put it in the chat, and then people can take it from there.
Okay. Yeah, I will put in the chat, but I will happy to answer and to share my experience. And if you want to do this kind of international networks or projects, I will happy to collaborate.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.